Well, it's summertime, and you know what that means. It's time to hit the Jersey Shore boardwalks. But let's talk about those boardwalk games for a second. We've all heard the rumors. Rocks in designer bags, fishing line at the bottom of the prizes, pulling them back down. That claw machine will get you every time. So is it all urban legend, or is there something sinister going on at the Jersey Shore? Here to answer that question are NJ Advanced Media reporters Sean Sullivan and Amira Sweilem, the authors of Claw and Order, a deep dive into the wild world of boardwalk games. You guys, what led to this deep dive into this subject?
Well, a boardwalk operator got earlier this year was hit with a $15,000 fine and a 10-year ban for the overinflation of basketballs, repeated overinflation of basketballs, and so that just introduced us to a world of regulation and shenanigans that we just never did, weren't aware of, and so we just dug in.
I mean, I feel like we've all been there, right? You just keep feeding these machines dollar after dollar. You continue to walk away with nothing. And you're like, is it me? Or are these just super sketchy? So did you find an answer to our question? Are we just like terrible at these games, or is there some sketchiness at play?
Well, it depends on the game. So when we took like all the data that we got from the Attorney General's office, we found claw games had the most issues.
I knew it.
Yeah. So like a lot of them couldn't withstand the weight. So if you've ever like taken done the claw game, the claw grabs the toy, you see it lifting, and then all of a sudden the toy drops. I mean, that's a violation.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel so validated because that has happened over and over. What other game? I mean, I feel like we all know the claw game is, you're going to walk away probably empty-handed, but is there anything else on the boardwalk that you're most likely going to lose your money?
Mm-hmm. Well, pretty much any of the games that you're playing, you have to keep in mind that the way that they stay in business is by taking in more money than they give out in prizes. But what we found overall was that the proposition of playing boardwalk games at the shore, we kind of all know what that value proposition is. But surprisingly, the cheating on the boardwalk wasn't as widespread as popular culture might lead us to believe. We're talking about dozens of violations over 5 years and thousands of operators up and down the boardwalk and elsewhere in the state. So but that said, the stories that we do find, you mentioned up top the designer bags filled with rocks. We've heard about the overinflation of basketballs. All sorts of other stories.
Yeah, like toys being too hard to reach, or basically like jerseys, like counterfeit jerseys, like things not being on premise,
the prize might not actually be in the box in the claw game.
Especially if you're talking about these larger, the big ticket items, the electronics, the stuff like that. That's where you should really start asking some questions and paying attention to what you're doing, because time and again, state investigators have found that when they're advertising these big prizes, there's actually no iPhone.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so the claw game for sure. You guys mentioned the basketball game, might have some things going on there. Anything else? Please tell me Frogger is safe. How did Frogger come out? I love that game.
I think, did we one?
Yeah, the frog
one incident of Frogger.
Overall is a fairly safe. I think we found one violation in there over issues with prizes, like they didn't have enough prizes in stock or something like that.
Okay.
So minor issues with the frog bog.
Tell me about the bushel basket. What's the deal there? I've yet to ever see anyone win that.
When we went in, at first I didn't even realize it, but I think at some point, I'm also just horrible at sports, so this could be user error, same with the basketball game. But when I tried it, it bounced back. And so, yeah, that's a lot of the issues with the bushel basket was that the ball wasn't staying in.
And I noticed the person operating that game seemed to be pointing to a particular spot on the basket. And I'm like, isn't it going to just pop right back out if she hits that spot? And did you ever get one in the basket?
No, I didn't. And really, again, it could be user error, but also I think when I did throw it in at some point, it popped right back out.
Can we just hit the basketballs one more time?
Sure.
Okay, so overinflated basketballs, so they're just going to pop back out.
Yeah, I mean, look, anytime you're dealing with these games of chance or the games of skill, there's kind of you're always going to be a little bit wondering whether I wasn't good enough or whether there's some cheating going on. And so there are regulations for the width of the hoop at a basketball game or the buoyancy itself of the basketball, because if you put too much air into a basketball, it becomes bouncier, and so it's gonna bounce off. And so industry standards say between 5 and 7 psi. And so if you go to the boardwalk, every basketball that you shoot has to be between 5 and 7 psi, the same way they are at an NBA basketball game.
Huh, interesting. Okay, so now tell me how to win these things. Like, can you guys give me a tip or a couple tips on the claw game to start?
Yeah, so with the claw game, it's really just like watching. If you're seeing other people like win the prizes, then that might mean that you're likely to win the prizes, and go for play to win. So we actually got this guy. It was $5, and that was because it was play to win, and they'll have it advertised that way. And yeah, first try.
Oh, excellent. So
Yeah.
it's right on the machine. So this is
Yeah.
probably a good option for parents if you've got little ones with you.
You
They
wanna
need
come out
to
with
walk away with
something.
something.
Yeah. The other ones though, it's really going to be. It was fairly hit and miss for us. I mean, like we spent 120 in total on Boardwalk games, and we tried a lot of claw games, and we came out with just like this guy. A pink Elmo, like Cookie Monster, a Sonic,
Some really
and
random
like
stuff.
you had like a little giraffe.
I had a little beanbag giraffe. So yeah, spent about $120. Probably wound up with about $10 or $15 worth of prizes.
Yep.
That syncs up. So I like to go to the boardwalk earlier because there's less people, less lines, but maybe you do want to go when there's more people on the boardwalk. You can scope out people playing the games.
Yeah, one of the number one tips when we talked to boardwalk operators was to just keep an eye on the games to see if other people are winning, because that'll tell you whether or not it's winnable, and also pay attention to the signage there. If they're spelling out the rules in plain English, you have a much better chance of winning than if you're relying on somebody shouting rules at you while you're trying to throw a dart in front of your romantic interest.
Gotcha. So if there's really good signage, if you get that prize in that claw and it drops out, I mean, can you ask someone like, hey, this might not be I mean, I'm not that brave to be like, excuse me, but is that possible? Like, can you ask questions?
Yeah, that's another thing that the boardwalk operators say is be curious and ask questions. Whether you're playing the claw game or you're playing the basketball game or the frog bog, ask them about how often do people win this stuff. Ask them when was the last time a machine was calibrated. When was the last time? What's the PSI in the basketball? They have the inspectors come by and they're going to check the PSI in the basketball. So most of these stalls have them there. So it might make you a little bit of a fun killer, but you can ask them and find out. You do your due diligence when you're playing your boardwalk games.
When you walk away with a stuffed animal that's this big because you asked a question, you won't be feeling like
Exactly.
Okay. The basketball. So you already hit on. You can ask, you can check about the basketballs. What about that bushel basket though? Can you guys give me some tips there?
So the best tip for the bushel basket is to try to get a deflected shot. You don't want to sink it directly into the basket because it's just going to bounce right back out. So if you can use the side of the basket or even the back of the stall there as a kind of backboard, that's going to deaden the blow and improve your chances.
And if you're not very athletic like me and it's user error, then go to the stalls that say like you can get a toy anyway. So we went to one of the basketball stalls that was like, he gave us a lot of tries, and we came out with a toy. It was like this weird little spiked dog ball, but it was nice, to come out with something.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I've seen play to win on the claw games, but I didn't know that there were stall games along the boardwalk where you'll get something. You walk away with something. That's great. Any other tips that you guys can give? Just going to the boardwalk and.
The other tip is to just make friends with your with your boardwalk operators, because these people we talk to a bunch of them, and they like to say that they're not in the games industry, that they're in the entertainment industry. And
That's fair.
Yeah, and that's the proposition that I think we all pay for when we go to the boardwalk, is that we're not necessarily you if you want to win big, you go to the casinos in Atlantic City, right? Here, really, it's about fun and about trying out some games, even if you're not going to win.
And these games are inspected. Are they inspected every year? I mean, these boardwalk operators are used to answering questions from somebody.
Yeah, they are inspected every year throughout the year. Actually, you'll see inspectors both in blue polo shirts out in force on the boardwalk once a summer, and then you will also they do both announced and unannounced kind of undercover inspections, and so there is a small and quasi-secret army of investigators that are trying to keep the boardwalks honest.
Did you see them in action this
I
time?
did, yes. I was out with them just the other day, and they didn't find any violations, but that's perhaps not too surprising given the fact that the Attorney General of the state of New Jersey was wandering around. I will say that I watched all the officials play basketball, and none of them sunk a shot. But I don't think that has anything to do with the quality of the game.
I feel better about myself.
So what was the most surprising thing for you guys, and especially for you, Amira, because you played, you're on video, like trying these games, and you got a couple prizes, but I felt like it was a very normal experience. We're all used to being like, okay, you throw a couple bucks at it and you walk away and you had some fun.
Yeah, I would say I guess I was surprised by sort of the operators of these games, especially the basketball and the bushel ball game operators. They were so charismatic. They were egging me on. They gave me multiple tries, and so I was just like, oh, okay, this I can do. The thing that I was really surprised about is, because I don't gamble or anything, or I think I've been to a casino once, was how addictive it is to play the claw games. It felt like I just wanted to try, okay, I could just get it in this time. So that was really surprising to me, was how that feeling of I want to try this again.
A fully grown adult watching it drop, no!
Yeah.
That
the thing,
visceral reaction to that drop.
Yeah.
I'm also surprised that it's fewer violations than I would have assumed. I mean, these guys came out not looking so bad. I mean, you're talking about all the boardwalks along the Jersey Shore, right?
Yeah, and we're talking about potentially hundreds of stalls up and down the boardwalk, and 60 or so violations, and so I think that that speaks to the fact that that this is part of it is a little bit of art and science, figuring out where these violations are, and but overall you're getting scammed exactly as much as you think you're getting scammed.
I love that.
And I mean, there are sort of there are consequences if you if there's basketball games almost got banned one year because there were so many violations, and it was such a.
So it's a cleaner industry than it was
just a few years ago. Yeah, in our reporting, we uncovered a small stakes scandal involving these basketball games that led to the operator ban I mentioned earlier. Actually, it was fairly widespread on the Jersey Shore. If you lost at a basketball game in the summer of 2021, contact me. Maybe we can investigate it, find out whether you are the victim of a crime or you're just really bad at basketball.
You're already going down this path. You might as well see it all. Guys, thanks so much. This was so fun.
Yeah,
thanks for the surprises. Be sure to check out the full report, Claw and Order, on NJ.com, and have a great summer. Good luck.